North Korea has long been known for its secretive and oppressive regime, which tightly controls its citizens and isolates the nation from the outside world. Despite the harsh conditions, many North Koreans have risked their lives to escape in search of freedom and a better life. Over the years, the government's measures to prevent defections have become more sophisticated, making it nearly impossible for most citizens to leave. This explainer video explores the evolution of North Korea's strategies to restrict defections, the challenges faced by defectors, and the severe consequences for those who are caught. North Korea, officially the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, DPRK, has been ruled by the Kim family since its founding in 1948. Under the leadership of Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, and now Kim Jong-un, the country has maintained a totalitarian regime that emphasizes isolation, self-reliance, and loyalty to the ruling family. The government's guiding ideology, Juche, promotes self-sufficiency and devotion to the supreme leader, fostering a cult of personality around the Kim dynasty. This isolationist policy has led to strict control of information, movement, and interaction with the outside world. The regime fosters a cult of personality surrounding its leaders, where the Kim family is revered almost as deities and dissent is strictly suppressed. The North Korean government controls all aspects of life, from media and education to personal freedoms. Citizens are subjected to extensive surveillance, and any perceived disloyalty to the regime is met with severe punishment, including imprisonment in labor camps. Yes, in the early years following the establishment of North Korea in 1948, the regime under Kim Il-sung did not immediately implement the highly restrictive measures we see today. During the early decades, particularly the 1950s and 1960s, defection was not as heavily controlled, partly because the country was still solidifying its political and economic structures. However, as political tension between North Korea and South Korea escalated, especially after the Korean War, 1950 to 1953, and as more citizens began defecting, particularly due to worsening conditions, the regime became increasingly concerned about maintaining loyalty and preventing its citizens from fleeing. In the 1990s, a significant wave of defections occurred during the Arduous March, a devastating famine that forced many to seek refuge across the northern border into China. Defectors often crossed the Tumun River, which at the time was more loosely guarded. The Yalu and Tumun rivers along the China-North Korea border have long been common escape routes. However, the escapees faced immediate threats from both sides. On one hand, the North Korean regime pursued defectors harshly, and on the other, Chinese authorities, cooperating with North Korea, actively captured and deported them. This repatriation often led to imprisonment, forced labor, or even execution for the escapees. Yes, the demilitarized zone, DMZ, between North and South Korea is a significant deterrent to defection. Although the word demilitarized suggests a lack of military presence, it is actually one of the most heavily fortified borders in the world. The DMZ stretches about 250 kilometers, 160 miles, across the Korean peninsula and serves as a buffer zone between the two countries. It is one of the most militarized borders in the world, with landmines, barbed wire, and armed guards. Crossing the DMZ is extremely dangerous and rare. Key features include 1. Landmines. The DMZ is littered with thousands of landmines, posing a serious threat to anyone attempting to cross. 2. Barbed wire and fences. High fences topped with barbed wire run along much of the border. 3. Armed guards. Both North and South Korea maintain a heavy military presence along the DMZ, with soldiers constantly patrolling and watching for any suspicious movement. 4. Surveillance technology. The border is monitored by advanced surveillance systems, including cameras, sensors, and drones. These defenses make crossing extremely hazardous, and as a result, defections through the DMZ are exceedingly rare. Most North Korean defectors choose alternative, albeit dangerous, routes through China and Southeast Asia. Technological advancements have also been used to block communication. The regime's crackdowns on smuggled mobile phones, which defectors had previously used to communicate with the outside world, further isolate citizens and limit their access to uncensored information, making coordination and planning for escape nearly impossible. Defectors face life-threatening punishments if caught. The North Korean regime employs severe tactics, including sending defectors and their families to prison camps, enforcing public executions, and applying guilt by association policies, which allow authorities to punish relatives of defectors as a means to prevent further attempts. The regime uses these extreme measures, such as forced labor, imprisonment in labor camps, and public execution, to maintain strict control and discourage attempts to leave the country. These punishments serve as a powerful deterrent to others who might consider defecting. The severe consequences are part of a broader strategy to prevent the erosion of regime authority and to maintain internal security. The regime has also pressured neighboring countries, especially China, to return defectors who are labeled as economic migrants rather than political refugees. This stance aligns with North Korea's narrative, allowing China to justify its practice of repatriating defectors, a move widely criticized by international human rights organizations. These organizations have repeatedly called on the global community to offer better protection for North Korean defectors, recognizing them as victims of severe political oppression. With North Korea's continually tightening grip and increasingly sophisticated countermeasures, the prospects of successful defection have become much rarer than in past decades. The diminishing number of defections from North Korea reflects both internal and external factors that have made escape more difficult and dangerous. Internally, North Korea has increased its border security and ramped up propaganda to deter defections, which has contributed to the significant decline in the number of people fleeing since the 2000s. The COVID-19 pandemic worsened the situation by further sealing the country's already restrictive borders under the guise of controlling the virus, making it nearly impossible to escape. The consequences of failed defection attempts are not limited to the defectors themselves. North Korea employs a three-generational punishment system, meaning that a defector's family members can also be punished for their relatives' actions. This can result in social stigma, forced labor, or imprisonment for entire families. Externally, for those few who do manage to flee, their challenges extend beyond the escape itself. Many North Korean defectors must live in hiding, particularly in China, where they face the constant threat of being captured and repatriated. If they manage to evade capture, they often embark on long and dangerous journeys through third countries like Laos and Thailand to reach a place of safety. Even when they arrive in South Korea or other countries, their difficulties are far from over. Defectors often deal with psychological trauma, language barriers, and adapting to an entirely new culture. Many experience isolation, discrimination, and struggle to integrate into South Korea's competitive, fast-paced society, which can feel alien and overwhelming compared to life in the North. Even for those who successfully escape, their families may face social discrimination in North Korea. The regime views defectors as traitors, and their relatives often live under increased scrutiny, facing a lifetime of marginalization and restricted opportunities. This complex set of challenges highlights how, while escape may offer physical freedom, the emotional and social hurdles can be just as daunting. Some defectors seek assistance from underground networks, including brokers and humanitarian organizations, which help guide them to safety. These networks offer a slim chance of escape but carry significant risks, as many brokers demand large payments, and getting caught means severe punishment. North Korea's evolving strategies to prevent defections reflect the regime's desperation to maintain control and isolate its citizens. Despite these measures, many North Koreans continue to yearn for freedom, taking incredible risks in their pursuit of a better life. As global awareness of their plight grows, the international community continues to face challenges in providing adequate support and protection for defectors.